Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. On this episode, we are tackling the tailgate conversion on my 2008/2020 GMC Sierra Duramax. So I don't know if you've noticed by now, but I kind of like doing front end and tail end swaps on things. On my 2018 Dodge Charger, you see me doing the Ute conversion there. This isn't the first time I've done something strange, to say the least. As you're looking at the front end, things seem a little bit pedestrian even. You know, I've got a blacked out grille, I've got red tow hooks, but everything else looks to be in place. Until you notice that that white pearl paint was not an offering on this 3500. Then you start to look at the side and something looks a little bit off. But then you'd be correct. This is a 2020 GMC Denali bed on my 2008. And I've done a few videos on this upwards of about a year ago. And as the 2008 beds get more and more expensive, people are looking for these 2020 conversions and wanting to know how to do it. So I wanted to finish this build series by quickly discussing how we can get the MultiPro tailgate to fold down just the way that GMC intended. Now, if you've never heard of the multifunction tailgate, GM has introduced this for the 2019 model year, and 4 actuators are in the tailgate, and they release when you hit a button, and they'll let the mid gate, the center portion of the tailgate, and then the larger full tailgate down once commanded. And there's no switches or anything like that on the 2008s, so you're going to need wiring diagrams and a controller to release that when you want it to. I've removed the shrouding from this tailgate, and if you look real closely, you'll see this yellow and black wire and then this green wire, and those control your outside actuators, meaning the entire tailgate will fold down once you get power and ground to these wires. And then if you look on the inside, you'll see another set of wires that run right along here. You'll need to tie into those 2 wires as well for the mid gate. That's what they call this center section of the tailgate. Once you trace those wires down here, you can make your connection right underneath the bed. That's where I went to because everything came together right underneath there. So you'll tie the 2 wires together on each side, and then you'll tie in these 2 wires on each side, and you'll end up with 4 wires that you need to send power and ground to control this tailgate. So you've invested in the 2020 and up GMC or Chevy tailgate, but you need to know how to get it to work. I went to Auxbeam and got their multifunction switch panel. I'm going to show you how. Now I have to say, their kit is probably the most well packaged that I've ever seen. Now in it, you get all of the stickers so you can label the main control unit. This is really hefty, really good quality. It looks waterproof as well. And you got your on-off switch with your multifunctions, and you have LEDs at the top. You have your main control unit here where you hook up all your wires. You have your 60 amp power breaker, so no need for fuses. You have this main unit that'll switch off power in case of a fault. And then of course you have the bracketry, you have the fuses, you have the wiring, and the tooling to get everything hooked up. So you even have the thicker gauge wires that you need to control your unit with. They thought of everything. So you're paying for high quality, you're paying for having everything in one package, so you can install this in one smooth go. And I'll show you exactly how to do it. Now I ran everything up and inside the cab here, and I'll show you what everything is. Here are control wires. So these wires have no positive or ground going to them yet, but when the Auxbeam sends signals, they'll send power and ground through these wires. These will control the mid gate, these will control the full tailgate. We have our circuit breaker on this side, and main power that comes from the battery will supply the main power going to our Auxbeam controller. We have ground taken from the frame that comes up through this black wire, and we'll be connecting that to the Auxbeam controller as well. And then we have additional power and grounds that I'm using as a breakout to control other wiring unrelated to this install. So here's our main control unit. We have several wires here that I'll break down. These 4 wires go to the main control unit that will mount on the driver's side. I'll show you that later on. And here's our signal wire that gives you 12 volts ignition once the key is turned on. Now right now, notice the circuit breaker's turned off. It's very important that it stays that way until we're ready. So here's our main control unit. Now, because of this cover that goes over this, we have to route all of our wires underneath and through here to make our connections. And we'll start by hooking up our power and ground. Once our control wires are now connected, we can plug in our signal wire that gives ignition once the key is on, and then our 4 controller wires that have a panel mounted right on the dashboard. We'll reconnect our breaker, we'll turn our ignition on, and then we'll run our test. So we'll turn our truck on and take a look at our Auxbeam controller. We'll double press the on button, and that brings us into our configuration settings. 5 and 6, which are in the bottom right hand corner, they control the wires that we hooked up. And what we'll need to do is we'll need to make sure that they're set to blue instead of green or red. And the blue means that we're momentarily sending 12 volts instantaneously to the tailgate, and then we're getting rid of it immediately. So now I've mounted my dash bracket and the 4 screws that go into my controller bracket, and I'll use the 2 screws that go here to mount everything together. Included in the kit are stickers that you can use to label each button. The up and down arrow are the closest things I could find to mark the upper and lower tailgate sections. Let's quickly test it to make sure everything works just as expected. I love it when a plan comes together. It works perfectly. And now I have 5 more buttons that I can program to do anything else I want to on the truck. I can use it for bed lights, fog lights, anything you can think of. If it has power and ground going to it, we can actuate it using that Auxbeam controller. And just remember, this is not just for the GMC. You can do this on any vehicle to do anything. Hopefully you like this type of video. Let me know in the comments. Talk to you in the next one.